Hey guys, it's Chelsea from The Financial Diet, and this video is brought to you by CuriosityStream. And this week, I want to talk to you about something that may make you put on your best Keanu Reeves voice and go, what? By the way, who's really here for the Keanu Reeves renaissance? The Keanu Reeves-essence, because I'm here for it. Anyway, let's talk about money. So if you've read the title of this video, which statistically speaking is probably impossible that you didn't, I am here to talk about saving money that you've already spent. Simply put, this is a way to look at all of the items and products we've already bought and look at the two possible outcomes for them. Either we can not really take care of them and end up replacing them, which quite frankly is often the easy way to go because we live in a culture of replacement, or we can make sure that we take care of them and put in the proper effort so that that money spent is not money that we'll have to spend over and over again. We can look at each item that we buy as a way to ensure that it will be a long-lasting item that will save us money in the long term. And yes, when we live in a culture of replacement that tells us that it's better to have single-use items or that every 5 seconds you need a new phone with a slightly better camera or whatever it may be, it can be really hard to fight against that tide. And quite frankly, a lot of us didn't learn the proper domestic skills at home that can help us maintain some of these products we're buying. But with the right skills, the right effort, and the right knowledge of all the items we're buying, we can make sure that that money we've already spent is money we can save in the future. So let's get right into it with 6 ways to save money you've already spent. Number 1 is maintenance, cleaning, and tune-ups. Put simply, everything that you bring into your life comes with a responsibility. You owe it to yourself to take care of this product and to understand it when you bring it into your life, especially if it's more of an investment product. For example, when you invest in a good pair of shoes, it's up to you to learn how to clean and maintain those shoes on a regular basis, how to protect them from the elements, and how to get them resold every so often so that you don't have to outright replace them. It can be the difference of a pair of shoes lasting for 1 to 2 years, all the way up to a decade or decades, depending on how well you take care of them. And it's not just maintenance. Often the difference in a lifespan of a product will be a matter of keeping it really clean. For example, keeping a nice wooden cutting board or butcher's block well oiled and maintained can be the difference of years of lifespan. And when it comes to things like electronics, especially all those little tiny moving parts, keeping an item clean on a regular basis can mean years of lifespan as well. Often, a lot of times electronics breaking down is just from a buildup of dust and grime. And this also means doing things like reading the instruction manuals to things, which, let's be honest, you probably don't do. When you buy something like a new window air conditioning unit or a new vacuum cleaner, that probably comes with very specific instructions on how to do things like replace the filter, which can be the difference between thinking that an item is broken and realizing that it just needs 5 minutes of maintenance. Even something as common as rotating your tires is something many of us don't do often enough, which doesn't just mean a shorter lifespan on those tires, it can be extremely dangerous. The point is, each item has its own cheat code, so to speak, which are really just taking care of it the way you're supposed to take care of it, that can make a difference of years of use. Making a checklist of the bigger ticket items you need to be careful to maintain and setting reminders for yourself to do those little upgrades on a regular basis is a great way to ensure you won't forget. Number 2 is check the shelf life and use things up. Now, obviously, consumable items are not going to need the kind of maintenance that those longer-term items use. But it can be truly heartbreaking to throw away that bag of fresh produce that went bad, or the spices that you never used, or those items in your medicine cabinet you simply forgot you had and replaced too soon. About 40% of food in America goes uneaten, and much of that is from the food going bad before we have a chance to eat it or before we make a priority to eat it. So aside from being diligent about always checking the expiration dates and making sure that if you're not able to use something quickly enough, you freeze it wherever possible, it also means things like not buying items in bulk that you're not going to be able to use in time. Things like toilet paper, toothpaste, etc. that you'll always have a use for and always go through on a regular basis are very safe to buy in bulk. But anything perishable or even semi-perishable that isn't a guaranteed daily use is going to be a much harder call. And this also includes things like building a weekly meal plan that specifically addresses when things are going bad. I find it very helpful to have my meal plan actually written out. You can even put one up in your kitchen that has like, you must eat this thing by this day on it, because otherwise it's easy to forget. And sadly, much of what ends up going bad is the produce that's most expensive to buy in the first place. Actually, we recently ran a very helpful article on the TFD website all about how to make your produce last longer, which I'll link you guys to in the description. But even non-fresh items can go bad, and it's up to you to make sure that you're always using them before they do. Otherwise, it's the equivalent of flushing money down the toilet. Number 3 is always at least trying to repair something before you toss it. Before you throw away anything that seems to be broken, you should always do a search on what might be wrong with it and what it would entail to fix the item. This can be everything from clothing and apparel to your electronics to a piece of furniture. Often, repairing an item is way less expensive and way less wasteful than just throwing it out. Challenging yourself to do things like getting good at very basic clothing repairs, which, despite my many domestic failings, I am pretty good at now, can be the difference between a clothing item lasting for years or it getting thrown away eventually because you're simply too lazy to bring it to the tailor. And for many more difficult to fix items, you would be surprised at how often companies are willing to repair these items free of charge. Many companies want to stand behind their products, and especially if an item has broken prematurely or in a way it wasn't supposed to, companies will want to fix this because they want your loyalty and for you not to go around complaining about their shoddy product. But even if you do have to bring it to a repair shop, especially for things like incredibly expensive to replace electronics, this can be hundreds of dollars of difference. And ultimately, some items you will find that you have to replace. But even just simply taking that step to see if you can repair it, yourself or otherwise, is often enough of a pause to realize that you don't need to replace it. Fighting to beat that culture of replacement and fixing things before getting rid of them is a mindset change that will save you enormous amounts of money throughout a lifetime. Number 4 is upcycling and keeping it timeless. Just like we live in a culture of replacement, we also live in a culture of endless renovation. On television, in magazines, on social media, and even in the world around us, we see constant trends when it comes to things like how you're furnishing or even building your home, to the clothes you're wearing, to the food you're eating. Everything is always about what's new, what's modern, what's chic, what's trendy, and what might feel totally cutting edge one minute can feel so dated the next. For example, I lived in Brooklyn during the era where everything looked like a turn-of-the-century factory with like the Edison light bulbs hanging from a little string and the exposed brick and the wood everything. And now that ubiquitous Brooklyn circa 2011 style is extremely dated and specific. But I know many people and many restaurants and stores and establishments that spent enormous amounts of money to ape that specific aesthetic. But there are some incredibly effective ways to combat this. The first is to really go out of your way to reject these trends, especially when it comes to these consumable items you can spend enormous amounts of money on, like your clothing or your home furnishings. I'm someone who personally tries to dress in a way that would look appropriate on someone in a huge range of age groups, and if we're being honest, spans of decades. I don't really own trendy clothes, and whenever I go to trendy stores and try on these like really sort of like hip looks, I feel a little ridiculous, but I'm also inclined not to buy them because I know that I can't really wear them for a long time, whereas like a plain cardigan or a plain top is something that I can always swap in and out with things like little accessories, but will ultimately stand the test of time and my own inevitable march towards old age. Picking a few trend-driven pieces to mix in and out, but largely staying with a fairly neutral and timeless wardrobe is a great way to do that. And when it comes to your home furnishings, making sure to mix things from different eras, and for example, if everyone's doing mid-century modern, maybe getting one or two of those pieces, but largely keeping everything much more your style than the style is the way to go. But on top of being wary of these trends, it's also important to remember that the difference between a piece feeling outdated and something that you don't really love anymore, and something that feels new and fresh and stylish, is often a question of changes you can make yourself. There are actually very few furniture items in my home that I haven't in some way changed. Often that's a coat of paint or replacing the fixtures on it or putting on some stick-on wallpaper. And often these are changes that I've made over and over again. I have a bookshelf that probably has 7 coats of paint from over the years, as well as some stick-on wallpaper. It's like different geological eras of my taste in colors. The point is getting more comfortable with upcycling some of the items you already have, especially if you want them to fit in those newer trends trendier moments is a much more effective solution than just going out and replacing the item. Once you've spent the money on something, you should go through every possible way to keep it fresh and keep it relevant to your life before you eventually possibly replace it. Number 5 is selling the things you no longer need. There are near endless apps and websites to sell the items in your home that you're no longer using for every subcategory of item, and we'll link you to a great list of where to sell different items in the description. Everything from your electronics to your wardrobe to your furniture is something that you may not love anymore, but someone else very well may. And yes, donation is also a great option, but if you're looking to make a little money to replace something, so is selling. Even just being passively present on things like local selling and swapping Facebook groups can make that process more natural in your life and remind you when you're looking to get rid of something or move or replace, hey, I'm in that group that's really great for selling stuff. A lot of people don't take time to sell items specifically because it feels like kind of a hassle. But once you do it once or twice, you realize that it's A, not hard at all, and B, extremely cool to receive money for things that you were otherwise planning on just leaving on the curb. Plus, if you're able to use that sale cost to offset the cost of the new item, it feels like you've kind of broken some secret code. The point is, getting used to selling old items, or at least attempting to before you get rid of them, is often the difference of something just being a loss and something potentially being a great way to start your new item. Lastly, number 6 is return defective products. Now, much like sending back an improperly cooked dish at a restaurant, a lot of people are really deeply afraid of doing this. And I used to be that way too, but now I'm an adult, and if I pay to go to a restaurant and I order a steak medium rare and it comes out medium well, I am sending that back because I am not paying $45 or more, which is what steaks cost in New York City, to eat a rubbery ass steak that I did not order. My money is extremely valuable and I want what I pay for. Of course, be polite. You're not taking it out on the server, it's not their fault, but you have a right to demand quality. And similarly, if you buy an item and it is in some way defective, or you don't have use for it and haven't used it and have your receipt for it, bring that bad boy back. For example, I recently bought a blouse at a store that when I got home realized had a makeup stain on it that was definitely not mine because I know how pale I am and this was like 5 shades darker than the makeup that I wear. You better believe that I brought that thing back and was like, this isn't working for me, and got a new makeup stain-free blouse. And I know that for some of you, it probably sounds crazy that some people are afraid of doing this. Although let's be clear, some people are also just really lazy about going and bringing things back, which is your own damn fault and you deserve to lose that money. But as long as you're not being rude, you have every right to return something. Even if it's just, hey, I don't like this anymore. Here's the receipt and the item. It's part of what it means to operate a store for items to be returned sometimes. And if an item is defective or in some way damaged, you should absolutely bring it back. Alternatively, occasionally, I have found that an item is defective or damaged in the store and been like, what can you do for me? And sometimes they'll give it to you for a crazy discount. So like, for example, there have been other times where I was also buying an item of clothing, realized it had makeup on it and was like, I can get that makeup off. Let me see how much money I can get off of this item. And one time I got 70% off of an item because it had a little makeup stain on it. So either way, always making sure that you are getting the highest quality of what you're paying for and not being shy or embarrassed about asking for it is a grown-ass move. Take on the attitude of an adult and realize that every dollar you spend deserves to get what it pays for. And once you have gotten that high quality item, learning how to maintain it and to adapt it as it moves through your life is that next level of making sure that every dollar you spend is saved in the future. And if you want to learn more about the world around you, I recently watched and loved the documentary Stephen Hawking's Favorite Places on CuriosityStream. CuriosityStream is a subscription streaming service founded by the creator of the Discovery Channel, and made for those of you with no shame in your nerd game, with over 2,400 documentary and nonfiction titles from some of the world's best filmmakers, including exclusive originals like The Birth of the Internet, The Grammar of Happiness, or Conscious Capitalism. Get unlimited access starting at just $2.99 a month, and for TFD viewers, the first 31 days are totally free if you sign up at curiositystream.com/TFD and use the promo code TheFinancialDiet during the sign-up process. As always, guys, thank you for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and to come back every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday for new and awesome videos. Bye!